Hello and welcome to Parrot Analytics' 5th annual Global Demand Awards, where we highlight the most in-demand TV series, movies, and talent of 2022. Today, I am joined by Brad Schwartz, president of CW Entertainment. Brad, I'm so excited to talk with you because you have such a 360 view of the industry between stops at Viacom, Pop Media Group, and now the CW. So really appreciate you taking the time to come aboard.
It's always good to see you. I've always enjoyed all of your writing, all of our conversations that we've had, and so thrilled to be here and do this with you.
Much appreciated. And for everyone watching, I did not pay him to say that. That was genuine. So you know what? I'm going to take that one. Just to jump in, this is going to be the most important question of the whole interview. You worked for the Madison Square Garden Company for 2 years in the early 2010s. So let's just start off. Help us settle a debate New Yorkers have been having for generations. Who has the better food, MSG or Yankee Stadium?
Oh my God.
I'm putting you on the spot to start.
That is the new Yankee Stadium or the old Yankee Stadium?
We're going old Yankee Stadium for this one.
Madison Square Garden.
Okay. Duly noted. Direct your hate mail appropriately, everyone.
I just have to say that I'm Canadian. I played hockey. I played hockey in college. And one of the cool things about working at MSG is they would actually let the employees go play. We had a little men's league, and you could play on the Madison Square Garden ice, like at 5 a.m. every Tuesday. And it was, for any hockey player, that's just ridiculous.
You can't beat that. Every kid has pretended to be on the the mound at Yankee Stadium, on the ice for the Rangers, right. All that. So that's pretty cool.
So it's like the best food I've ever had is the meal when I got engaged. And so I have to say the best food between Madison Square Garden and Yankee Stadium. I've never been on the Yankee Stadium grass. So I'll have to say the food tastes better at MSG because I've been on the ice.
Fair. Context matters. And I can understand
Context matters. So.
All right, switching to the industry that we're all here to talk about. A common theme in entertainment these days is to kind of focus on who's spending the most and delivering the largest volume of content. But that doesn't really account for how significantly that content is resonating with modern audiences who interact with titles in such a number of different ways these days. If we look at the CW's roster of series over the last 12 months, it is significantly smaller than much of the competition's, but the majority of series are achieving outstanding demand levels in the US, according to Parrot Analytics data. So how do you stay out of the battle for more while maintaining a high hit rate? Because that seems to be the sweet spot right now.
Yeah, and look, I'm going to be able to give a little bit of an outsider perspective on this because a lot of the shows that you're talking about were done by the amazing team at the CW that predates me. I've seen some Parrot Analytics results that show like anywhere from 6 to 8 CW shows are some of the most in-demand shows in the world, from Supernatural to The Flash to Riverdale or whatever. Furthermore, some of the biggest shows in all of Netflix, not just their own originals, but in all of Netflix are CW shows. All American is right at the top. The Flash, Riverdale, these shows kill on Netflix. So there is something both to the platform of the CW for launching hits, and then there's something in the DNA of the people that work there that really comes down from all the way from from Gossip Girl to Vampire Diaries and down. In the most recent Jordan Peele movie, Nope, there's that character and he's like, oh, I lost my girlfriend to a CW actor. And it's like, we all know exactly what that means. Your very own Julia, the amazing Julia Alexander, she wrote when Wednesday came out on Netflix and that was all successful. She said, it's the most CW show not on the CW. The CW has certainly created a brand of really understanding pop culture, understanding youth culture, and youth culture and pop culture drives wider culture. And so when you can create a show like Gossip Girl or Vampire Diaries or The Flash or All American or whatever that impacts youth culture, that tends to have, I think, greater resonance through culture at large. And the CW's just always been very, very, very good at doing that.
Julia Alexander providing the best summation in the industry. And folks, I'm not just saying that because she's my boss, although that doesn't hurt. But you mentioned, you're developing content that resonates with youth culture, which drives pop culture at large. And I'm so curious because that route from inception to delivery on your TV screens has gone through such an enormous different amount of permutations over the years. prior to the CW, you were at Pop TV where you landed Schitt's Creek. You oversaw a rebrand at Fuse. You helped discover talents like Billy Eichner. You've worked with MTV Canada and SNL. As someone with such an eclectic resume and a really good eye for what's kind of moving the needle, what would you say has changed the most from a development and programming standpoint as new mediums, new generations of fans, new content trends seem to emerge every single day of the last 20 years?
Yeah, gosh, I guess I guess the first way to answer that is how I, view development and how I view, trying to find shows and pick shows, and then maybe there's the wider industry answer. For me, I think anybody in a position of developing content or making content comes at it a different way. And some people, I was always a marketing guy by trade. My background was always marketing. There are guys like Charlie Collier who came from ad sales. There are, and then there are people that come from a traditional development or background, or people that were former writers, etc. And so everybody comes at it a little differently. And for me, it was always about looking at emergent trends. For me, I was always trying to look at like what's happening, like where are trends pointing us, not residual trends. Too many people in our business just like, well, that's working, let's go make 7 of those. As opposed, it's like, hey, let's go open a coffee shop. For me, I've always tried to look ahead of things, and that's why sometimes when we greenlight stuff, people don't pick up on it for 3 or 4 years because we might have actually just been too much ahead of the trend. Billy Eichner, his Billy on the Street show, that started very small, eventually became Emmy nominated. Nobody heard of Schitt's Creek in the first 3 years of that show. It's funny, when Dan brought that show, when Dan and Eugene brought that show to us, I was spending a lot of time thinking about income inequality in America. I was thinking a lot about the cesspool of divisiveness in social media. We were thinking a lot about how, celebrity culture, like the Kardashians, has gone, so crazy. And here was this show that just kind of in a very comedic way, kind of nailed a lot of those trends that I was just wider trends that I was thinking about. And plus, Dan and I were friends and we worked together at MTV Canada, and we were like, that was a really easy green light because I just saw what Dan was creating. To me, not only was a wonderful story, wonderful acting, all that kind of stuff, but it also kind of played into trends. And when you can find a piece of great content that also plays into trends, that's when people start talking about it. And so that's kind of how I've always viewed content. Try to find content that's going to kind of play with what's going on in culture and what might be coming. We know a recession's coming. What does that mean, for what the types of content people are going to want? We know that the government divide is crazier than ever. How can that maybe inform a type of content that you want to do? What is content that nobody else is doing? And try and find, interesting ways of playing in places where other people don't. So that's kind of my answer to that. I think industry at large, this is not any revelation. It's really been just such a crazy spending spree, and everyone's been just trying to outspend themselves. And Jason Blum has this great quote that I love. He's like, Hollywood spends money because it can, not because it has to. For better or worse, I've always been at places where we've had smaller budgets, and so we've had to be a little scrappier and think differently and think creatively, and it takes extra work and extra creativity, but there is a way to tell wonderful stories without spending a lot of money. There's ways to do Get Out, there's ways to do Fleabag, there's ways to do Schitt's Creek that kick everyone else's ass, and then there's Lord of the Rings and The Crown, and people that can do that because they can spend the money. But the thing that has defined certainly the past 10 years more than anything is just the crazy amount of spending.
But it seems now, after this kind of great recorrection of 2022, that being able to deliver quality on budget is now the hot, sought-after trend. And so, your track record in that seems to serve CW well. And I think it's safe to say, based on that answer, we can expect modestly budgeted originals that are timely, relevant, and, prioritizing singularity in a market of nearly 600 scripted originals per year.
Yes, that is absolutely our goal. It's funny, I've spent so much of my career being scrappy and trying, and, we can't do a story if it has dragons in it. We can do stories where you don't go outside. Yeah.
I love a good chamber piece. Just putting that out
Right?
there.
No, we did this show at Pop TV called Nightcap, which was, the whole thing. It was this amazing comedy from Ali Wentworth, and the whole thing took place behind the scenes of a late night talk show. Every episode just took place in an office. You never had to go outside. If you never have to go outside, your budget stays really, really low. Oh God, where was I? Where was I going with that? Just that. So the thing that maybe I've been a little unique in my career and being able to do more with less has been kind of a unique positioning in my career. Now I go out to the industry and we're saying this is what we're going to do at the CW, and we've got to be scrappy, et cetera, et cetera. Like, oh yeah, you and everyone else. Now my little contrarian way of doing things. Now everybody's like, yeah, we all have to do that now.
But at least you have the proof, track record. Yeah. All right, then to build off that, the CW, it's obviously entering a new chapter under new majority owner Nexstar. Popular DC series such as The Flash, Legends of Tomorrow, and Batwoman are either ending or have already ended. So how does the network go about building a new brand, and how might that brand build upon or differ from what audiences have kind of come to expect from the CW over the last few years?
I learned a long time ago that to build a strong brand, there's got to be a way that you do things that nobody else does it that way. Like if I were to tell you that Apple was going to make a toothbrush, you know what that toothbrush looks like, right? It's got curved edges. What color is it?
Probably silver, black.
Yeah, right. Like we all know what an Apple toothbrush would look like. So like Apple can do anything, and you just kind of, they could build a stadium, and you kind of have an idea in your head right now what an Apple stadium would look like. So there's an Apple way of doing things. CW has built a really strong brand and have done things a certain way. But what, jumping off of that, what we do know is we have to get bigger and broader. That focusing just on this kind of young adult audience is, especially when you are also concerned about a linear environment in addition to an AVOD environment, might be a little limiting. Now, that doesn't mean we still can't do a bunch of those types of shows, and we will. As you saw, we renewed All American recently, and there'll be a few more. But how do we get broader? How do we look at a procedural? How do we look at sports, which, we just had a big sports announcement recently. How do we look at comedy? And how do we do all of these things in a CW way? And so I think getting bigger, getting broader, and then we have this really unique platform where we have a broadcast platform that still reaches 120 million homes. And even as linear is declining and cable subscriptions are declining, the digital antennas are going up. And I'm sure you guys have a bunch of data, on that. Anybody with rabbit ears can get the CW. And our apps have been downloaded 92 million times. So we know that we can reach absolutely everybody if we can put great content in front of them. And that's the foundation that we can jump off of and build something really cool. And we're the CW everywhere. So we're not CBS and Paramount Plus. We're not Fox and Tubi. We're not, ABC and Hulu. We're not NBC and Peacock. We're the CW. And when we create a show, it's going to do really well in linear and serve all of our local stations. And it's also going to be be able to reach everybody through the CW app that has been downloaded, almost 100 million times. So that's kind of our platform and our foundation that we could go build something on.
See, this is why you're a great guest, because you're already getting ahead of me. My next question was going to be, the CW app has been downloaded more than 90 million times, which should be me2. Great stat.
That's my pitch. That's my pitch.
There you go. As the streaming world embraces the ad-supported model that you mentioned, how do you plan to leverage the ad-supported app moving forward, primarily as a linear network?
Yeah, it's a massive priority. And again, I think we have some things that nobody else has. None of the other AVODs have 400 hours of original programming like we do. Things like Roku Channel and Freevee don't have the broadcast pedestal that we have. I think it was you guys where I read 23 of the top 30 shows on Paramount Plus come from CBS, right? The CW shows are some of the biggest shows in all of Netflix. Like there is still a power to this pedestal of broadcast television. I think what we're all seeing, I think you might have even posted about this morning. what we're seeing, movies that are in theaters are doing proportionally better in streaming because they were on the pedestal of being in a theater. Shows that are on broadcast television are doing better in streaming because they were on this pedestal of being on broadcast television. And so the idea of us combining the power of broadcast with a free AVOD environment available to anyone, we don't have to worry about subscription fatigue. All of our stuff is available to everyone. That's a kind of a unique combination of assets that if we can tell the right stories and put the right original content into that CW everywhere environment, there's no reason why we can't win everywhere, and it's free.
Yet again, you got ahead of me, because my next was going to be...
I think we're just in each other's heads. We're like, it's just a yin. We're going. We got it.
So now that you've already answered, what role does linear programming play in this new streaming era, which you've answered so eloquently over there? Let me switch gears a little bit, because you mentioned that you want to broaden the audience a little bit. Originally, the CW's programming was targeted for 18 to 34 age demo, yet Nexstar revealed this summer that the average age of CW viewers is 58. So how, if at all, does that play into the network's new focus?
Yeah, look, we can all complain or comment, etc., about Nielsen. But if you're telling me the linear median age for All American is 58, we all know what a median means, right? Medium, we learned it in math a long time ago. It's the middle number. So if the median age for All American is 58, that means for every 28-year-old watching All American, which I'm sure there are a lot, that means there are a bunch of 98-year-old people watching All American to have a median age of 58. Look, linear TV is certainly skewing older in general. But to believe that All American and Riverdale and The Flash and Superman and Lois has a median age of 58, you're crazy. But having said that, that was the exact same shows. The median age for those exact same shows on our app is 30 years younger, is 28. Same show. So I see the Nielsen stat just like you do. The fact is, these are really, really powerful pop culture shows that target a younger viewer, and I just can't believe there are a bunch of 98-year-olds watching it. So I question those numbers, but even with those numbers, we know the age of people watching it on the digital platforms, and it's literally there's a 30-year difference.
Now, the age gap, and then you also have mentioned the power of linear programming still. I feel like this all plays into the recent huge announcement that the CW has become the exclusive home for LIV Golf. Can you talk a little bit about how that partnership came together and what it means for the whole CW ecosystem moving forward?
It means so much in so many different ways. It's really, really, it's a massive priority for us, and it's a really exciting initiative for us. First of all, we're now going to be broadcasting from 1 to 6 on Saturdays and Sundays. The CW nationally has always just been a 2-hour primetime block that was 5 days a week, then 6 days a week, and now 7 days a week. The fact that we are now expanding into other time slots, into other, into other places, and especially on weekends, that alone is exciting. That all the other broadcast networks kind of have that. They have their network blocks during the afternoon, and in those afternoon blocks, they can promote to the content that's coming up in prime time. We never really had that. Now, for 5 hours on Saturdays and Sundays, we have network time. And we're going to be bringing in a different audience than historically has come to us. That's another exciting thing. The other thing the CW never had is everybody were affiliates. We didn't have any O&Os as all the others do. We are now part of the largest station group in the country by a lot, right? Nexstar is an absolute gold-plated company with more free cash flow than Paramount and a stock price that over the past year has gone up versus a lot of the other media companies. So we're supported by an amazing public company. We're supported now. 32% of our local channels are O&Os, owned by the same company as the CW. That's going to mean a lot. And to expand into sports, look, I think I saw a stat that 82 of the top 100 shows in linear were sports last year. So if you want to be in the broadcast business, sports is certainly one of the areas for that is very important. Now, we're not going to be in a position to bid on NFL rights any day soon. So we have to go out and be really, really strategic. And the Live Golf opportunity. It's 14 live golf events this year with some of the biggest names in golf. And it's just a really exciting next step for the CW, and one that we hope to build upon.
And I like that you mentioned expansion, because sports, obviously, particularly golf, tends to be a very international attraction. This is a big, big pull. So as entertainment has become this increasingly global game, overseas markets have become lucrative new sources of growth and revenue for Hollywood. Now, if we look at paired analytics data over the last 12 months, CW programming has traveled very well to major markets such as Latin America, Asia, beyond. Will this new look CW, particularly on the back of these new sports rights, have an international focus, or are there benefits to emphasizing domestic reach and resonance first?
Yeah, I mean, we don't exist outside the US. So our focus is on the US market. But what gets really interesting when you look at the streamers like Netflix, et cetera, they can make a show, they can spend a lot of money on that show because they can amortize that across 230 million subscribers, and they can get it all over the world, and all of that kind of helps them. So for us, I think we certainly have to look to the international market to find partners to create content together, so that we can amortize the costs of our content. So we can pick up the US piece, and we can work with someone in the UK for the UK piece, or Australia, et cetera, and still have great ambition to tell amazing stories, but without ourselves having a big international footprint to work with international partners to figure out how to be ambitious, do great stuff, and share the cost of that stuff with other people. Schitt's Creek is a great example. ITV was representing that show all around the world. We were co-producers of that show and had all the US rights. CBC, obviously in Canada, who commissioned the show, had all the Canadian rights. And between ITV and CBC and Pop TV, we made that show really efficiently for everybody. And the results of, I don't know if we can recreate the results of that one, but we will certainly try.
But I guess based on that, it's fair to say that the CW will be looking for strategic partnerships and collaborations moving forward in that vein.
100%. It is a absolute priority for us, because because our ambition is still high. We still want to go out and win and tell the best stories, and have tons of people coming to watch it. And some of those shows we'll be able to afford ourselves, and some of those shows we are really going to have to partner strategically with other people in other countries that are not Netflix or HBO, et cetera, and work with partners to make great content. It is absolutely a strategy for us. Has to be.
So that's the big macro overview. Focusing back down to the micro, one of your originals, 2-Sentence Horror Stories, is one of the most in-demand horror series of 2022. It's a finalist. There you go. Clap it up. We have seen on the theatrical side that horror has proven to be pretty much pandemic proof, and it can be less expensive as compared to other scripted fare. It's been a popular genre for the small screen to embrace. And the CW has a pretty nice pre-existing foothold in this arena from previous and current series. Do you see this as a possible new building block for the network moving forward as you guys attempt to evolve the brand?
Yeah, I don't want to give away secrets. And again, this is an area that Julia loves, being a big horror fan like myself. Actually just saw Megan last weekend. It was so awesome. So much fun. Yes, to go back to have a callback to earlier in this interview, areas where other people are not focusing on in television. And I don't want to give away secrets or anything, but there is not a lot of horror on television, especially broadcast television. And as Blum has shown, you can do things in the horror space that are lower budget, just because it's about the scares and it's about the story, and you don't need big stars, et cetera, et cetera. Much like comedy, you can do things like The League or like Billy on the Street, where these things are just hysterically funny and it doesn't need a huge budget to support it. We've already spoken to Blumhouse, et cetera, about a bunch of different ideas. But the idea of trying to do some low cost but really, really cool horror programming, God, I would just love to find something like that. So yes. Okay. Don't tell anybody.
Well, interest has been piqued officially. I'm very excited to see what may or may not come from that. And then the last question will get you out of here. No, you're a busy man. You are a student of entertainment. You have been around the industry at so many different stops. If you could have dinner with one fictional character, who would it be and why?
Come on.
Ended on a stumper.
Really? Do you know
Sorry,
that
man.
I mean, this is going to be a terrible answer, but did you know that my college essay to get into Penn, the unlimited word length essay, was if you could spend an evening with any one person, living, deceased, or fictional, whom would it be and why?
I
You
did not know
literally
that.
just asked me the same question that I had to answer when I was 18 years old to get into college.
Well, now I'm
Just so
curious if
you
the
know.
answer has changed.
Just so you know. I'm like imagining myself with acne and 18, trying to write my college essay now. So thank you for that. Um, God, I wish I had thought more about that. Fictional.
Yeah, I'm putting you on the spot here.
Oh my gosh, I don't have a good answer. I feel terrible.
You can give the answer you gave for your 18-year-old college essay.
No, I can't. No, I can't. You know, you know, Rob Holmes, who works at Roku, his wife Cassie Holmes just wrote a book called Happier Time, and it's all about kind of living a happy life and not having regrets, etc. And it's interesting. When I was reading her book and really thinking a lot about that, I was like, if you could have a dinner with someone fictional, maybe you'd like that person to be like you at the end of your life, and not for fortune telling reasons, not to kind of find out anything like fortune telling, but really just to sit down with yourself and be like, what are those things that you regret? What are those things that you missed it when it came and you wished you hadn't? There was that road trip that your 4 friends went on and you decided not to go. Well, you should have gone on that, right? And so when I get there, I'm just going to know I'm going to go. And so I think that there was this great chapter of her book where it just talked about trying to live without regrets and how much time you have left and how time is so precious and you always want to live different things to live a happier life. And so that's something I've been thinking about recently. Like maybe you just want to sit down with yourself at the end of your life and be like, hey, what are your regrets? Because when I get there, I don't want to. I want to make sure I don't have it. No what ifs in life, as they say.
Well, I can confidently say in years of asking that question, that was the most introspective and philosophical answer I've ever gotten. So that's a memorable one right there, Brad. Appreciate you coming on to talk about the industry and talk about this new adventure that the CW is going on, and excited to see everything you guys cook up in 2023 and beyond.
Awesome. Thanks, man. It's always good to see you, and say hi to Julia for me. And I look forward to seeing you guys soon.
Appreciate it.
I hope you enjoyed that video from our Global Demand Awards Virtual Festival. Reach out to us today and find out why some of the largest organizations around the globe are partnering with Parrot Analytics to solve some of their most pressing problems.